Hey guys, Aaron Jackson coming to you today. Hope you're doing well. And today is going to be kind of a part two of, or kind of a follow-up to the last video that I made on just the foundations to be able to really play some killer lead guitar. And it really doesn't matter what style it is that you're playing, whether you're playing rock, whether you're playing metal, whether you're playing blues or country or jazz or bluegrass or whatever it is. So much of this stuff is based around these scales, and yeah, just having a really good understanding of each one of these and having a really good memory of each one of them will just be a net positive in your playing. So the first video I did was of the 5 pentatonic scale patterns, which I'll link in the description below. Go back and watch that and get those down if you haven't. I like to start with those because those are just kind of little 2-note per string scales, and it's kind of easy to get those down. But also just as important is getting these scales down, which are the major scales, also known as the diatonic scales. And I like to teach these in the key of G. That's just a good key to learn these in. It's a good key to kind of cover the neck here in. And yeah, I want to jump into those today here. So we're going to kind of start with this first pattern. This is a pretty familiar sounding pattern. It's the kind of standard do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And it... Okay, so that's a pretty familiar shape. That's a pretty familiar sounding scale. A lot of our ears are used to that. A lot of the music that we listen to is kind of based around that scale. Not all of it, obviously, but so that's the first pattern there, and that's another one of those scales that I find, you know, when a lot of students come in, when they come to me for lessons, they're usually familiar with some version of that scale. It might be something like that, but I usually find that's kind of where most people stop. They kind of know that one scale, but they don't know the other patterns here. And I'm going to show you 5 patterns total, with the first one included here. You could technically do 7 because there's 7 notes in this scale, and then it starts over, then the octave starts back over from there. I like to teach people 5. I find 7 is a little overwhelming, and you can learn these 5 patterns, and it will cover all the bases that you need to cover. So back to pattern 1 again. Again, this is our G major diatonic scale. All right. Now the second pattern, we're going to come up here. We're going to start on the 5th fret of the 6th string, and we're going to play. So that's one that not as many people have a kind of have a grip on, and it sounds a little bit different to the ear too. I don't want to get. I'll make a different video for when we get into the modes. But if you isolate that pattern by itself, that's technically the Dorian mode. But played over, it's still a G major scale, and really all we're doing is that's the scale, and it starts from the 2nd note in the G major scale. But we're switching positions, that way we can cover some additional ground on the guitar neck here. And if we wanted to, we could come down and resolve it back to G. So that's the second pattern in this 5 pattern major scale sequence here. Let's come up to the third pattern. We're going to come up to the 7th fret on the 6th string, and we're going to do. Try that one again. 7th fret on the 6th, up to the 8th, up to the 10th, 7, 9, and 10 on the 5th string, 7, 9, and 10 on the 4th, 7 and 9 on the 3rd, 7, 8, and 10 on the 2nd, 7, 8, and 10 on the 1st. So again, still sounds a little different to the ear because when you're listening to this scale in this key, you're kind of expecting that note to kind of resolve back down to the G, and you can do that, but all right. So we've got 3 scale patterns so far. Pattern 1 again. Pattern 2, pattern 3, okay. Now at this point, I want to come up to, we're going to come up to the 10th fret here. And we're going to do, this is pattern number 4 here. We're going to do. Play that one again. All right. And then we've got one more that we're going to do for the purposes of this video anyway here. We're going to come up to the 12th fret on the 6th string, and we're that is the 5th pattern. We'll go through that one again. So 12, 14, 15 on the 6th, 12, 14, 15 on the 5th, 12 and 14 on the 4th, 11, 12, 14 on the 3rd, 12, 13, 15 on the 2nd, and 13, 14, 15 on the 1st. So those are the 5 patterns that I like to start students off with for the diatonic scales. And in this case, we're learning them in the key of G major. That's just a great key to learn them on the guitar. I'm going to go through all 5 of those one more time here. So let's come down here for pattern 1. All right, let's come up to pattern 2. Pattern 3. Pattern 4. Pattern 5. Okay. So those are the 5 patterns that you really need to be familiar with your diatonic scales. Again, there's technically 7 of those, but I'll leave 2 of them out just for the sake of simplicity, and also because learning those 5 patterns will cover the bases that you need to cover when you're learning these here. I cannot stress the importance of getting these down so much. It's really crazy to me, like how many people that I'll see that come in and like have a good grip on their chords, and they can play bar chords, and they know some riffs, and some of them, you know, will even know some licks and can maybe even shred a little bit, but they're still not familiar with how to cover the neck with each one of these patterns. So I really recommend doing that. Go back and check out the video that I did on the pentatonic scales, and having these diatonic scales and the pentatonic scales down and knowing them frontwards, backwards, and inside out really lays the foundation to be able to smash out some really killer lead, again, regardless of the style that you're playing. So, yeah. Some legato chops. It's early in the morning here. I need to get warmed up. Anyway, thanks for checking out the video. Keep watching. I'll be back with more, and I'll see you next time. Peace.